And
Hello and welcome to World Sand Project. I'm Shelley Carney.
I'm Toby Younis. Thanks for joining us today. We have an email to read. Was that a limbo?
It's a limbo. It's hard to limbo
We have an
in your
email to
chair.
read. We have a sand project to show you, a World Sand Project sample to show you. We have a letter to read from the individual who sent us the World Sand Project. And let's see. And we have a video to share with you. Unfortunately, we can't share it with you on the show, but we'll tell you more about it and how to get there. So stick with us. There's a lot of hand motion in this, I noticed. Arm motion.
Well, that's because, you don't see my feet. So.
Here we go. So I am not sure. I'm hearing that little bump that we're getting. I'm not sure if they're hearing that. So bump. Refresh that for me, please.
Oh, bumpity bump. I hear no bump. I don't know what you mean.
Oops. Wow.
Send us money.
Send us money.
Housekeeping, you want towels?
Of course, you want towels because if you're out by the beach or the water someplace, you're going to need towels. Make sure that before you leave our video today, you like it. YouTube likes it when you like our video. Our friends like it when you like our video. Shelley, of course, likes it. Is that a new watch?
It's a new watch band.
Very nice. Oh, did you get that from Kevin?
Yeah.
Let me see. Very attractive. For your Fitbit
Yes.
and your little Shelley face. Thumbs up, like our videos. YouTube likes it when you like our video, and we like it when you like your video. Thank you very much. Share this video with your family, your friends, your neighbors, your business associates, and the entirety of your social network so that we can
Grow the channel.
And then finally, if you are not already a subscriber, this would be the ideal time to subscribe to this channel so you can keep track of what we are doing. And once you do, ring that notifications bell. And that way, when we start a live stream or when we schedule a live stream, you will be informed. And
in the know.
thanks for doing that for us. We really appreciate it. We want to grow this channel. I'm going to give you a quick mission statement. Our mission is to share with our viewers the fact that sand is a natural resource that we are using much more rapidly than the planet has the ability to replenish it. And so what we're asking you to do is go out to a local beach, whether it's on the shore, the ocean shore, a lake, a river, or in one case, the New Jersey Pine Barrens, who knew, and can collect some sand so that we can share that area with pictures and other information about, the area. And you can keep track of whether or not any damage is being done to those areas as well. I discovered that here in Bernalillo, as I travel from Bernalillo to Rio Rancho, there are several projects involving the moving of sand. It's kind of curious. And in a couple of cases, I didn't get video, but I will the next time. There were people basically stealing sand from Rio Rancho, putting it into a truck and driving it off to use in another project. So
Yeah.
So
Where's your phone when that stuff's happening?
Yeah, that's what I should have done.
Video.
Good. Lisa Smith is in the room, and
then
that's
you can
convenient
just send
because
it to the mayor.
or somebody. Don't you
Yeah.
feel like we need to do Sandoval County?
The mayor
Sand.
has a channel of his own. He does his show, his Rio Rancho show. Just talking about the city and stuff going on in the city. You should send it to him.
Send
and
it to
say,
him.
Here's
Of
some
course, we're
footage
not-
for your show. People are stealing your sand.
We're not quite as evolved here in Bernalillo as you are in Rio Rancho,
Well, get on it.
because you had your genesis basically in that Intel factory that brought all those technical people to Rio Rancho. Huh.
Well, it wasn't me. That was
Including
way
Cynthia.
before me.
Oh, okay.
But anyway.
But anyway. What were you gonna say,
Sand. And then when we're talking about sand, of course, Toby has a chance to look at everything under his microscope show.
That's gonna
about
that's
sand.
gotta be demonetize this.
Oh, I sang it.
Actually,
It
it's
should be
one.
fine.
It's one of
Just
several
never call anybody. that's all.
microscopes that I own.
Microscope.
And
show
Lisa, if
about
you would like, I'm going to turn
sand.
the phones on when we start talking about this location. Lisa, maybe you could call in and talk to us about it. I'll tell you when we're going to do that. I got to turn the phone on here first, which I didn't do before. So let me do that. Phone is on, and Then we connect it to the Roadcaster.
And as you can see, here's our phone number, 202-815-1171. And also we have our chat room open for all of your comments and conversation. We'll be taking a look at that during the show to see if you have any questions or answers. 'Cause sometimes we have questions for you.
Yeah. Is Rick in the room?
Not
It's
yet.
always nice to have Rick
Not
in
that
the
I
room.
know of yet.
Okay. All right, so let's go over to our sample. And as usual, well, let me show you what I've done here. So we're going to go to a page where I've collected all this information on Google Photos and the WorldsandProject Gmail account. And I've incorporated all of that. I'm going to go to the window shot right now. And I've incorporated a lot of this information in the description box that you'll find below. So you will find a link to the photos of the world sample that I'm showing here. You will find a link to the video that I'm going to talk about in just a few moments. You will find a link to the UN report that was written discussing the use of sand in construction projects and how it's diminishing the resource. And there's also a World Wildlife Fund report on the same project. And then we have a playlist of YouTube videos where the topic is covered, and I gave you a link to that playlist as well. If you want to send us a sand sample, we have a video, and I guess I should post that video in here as well on how to do it. And then, of course, that's our mailing address right there. And you can send photos and other information to our Gmail address right there. Okay? So all of that information is there. Now, I did get an email from our friend, Jonathan Jones. And Jonathan is one of our viewers on one of our other channels, but he keeps track of us on almost everything that we do. And let me go back to full frame while I read this so I can, well, no. So I'm going to go back. He sent me a link to this video. He said, hey, Toby, how about this? Beer bottles turned into sand when the glass can't be recycled for bottle creation. And he sent me the link. And as you know, because of the rules of YouTube, without their permission, I can't play it on our channel. But it's an interesting video. It's not very long. It's 2 minutes and 17 seconds long. And it's about New Zealand and how they're recycling bottles into sand.
I think I should move to New Zealand. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, they really do a lot of neat things, don't they?
Yeah.
They recycle bottles. Have Kevin check it. I'd move to New England with you guys.
New England or New Zealand?
I'm sorry, New Zealand. I'd move to New England.
Can
I'd
follow
move
us
to,
there?
Yeah.
They have a lot of beaches there.
No, I was there. I went there
island.
for R&R when I was in Vietnam, and
Well,
I
that was
fell in
only,
love with
what,
it.
50 years ago?
Yeah, it was a long time. It's changed a little bit, I'm sure. Although apparently it hasn't changed that
It's pretty
much.
awesome from what
So-
I've heard.
And they're always looking for immigrants.
Yeah?
We could immigrate to New Zealand because they don't have enough people to pay taxes. So
That
we
would
could
be
go pay
awesome.
taxes. Yeah. So, and we'll be retired. So I think we should do the fishing, the trout fishing.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
the weather's probably a whole lot better, too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And they
a
have
rich
all the different zones. They have all the way from beaches to mountaintops.
Yeah. And they have two islands that you
Glaciers
can
and
go.
everything.
One island is the populated island, and it's not that populated. But the other island is kind of, it's their version of Yellowstone National Park, basically.
And they speak English.
And they
just
speak-
have an accent, but they're
And
still
you know what?
English.
After a little while, they'll understand us
Yeah.
because we don't speak with an accent.
Yeah.
We don't speak with an accent.
Not on purpose.
So anyway, take a look at that video. New Zealand recycling bottles into sand for use in various projects. Certainly not the big construction projects, but they are using it in a very wise way. So take a look at that. And again, I
I
can't
wish
play
we
it.
would recycle glass.
Yeah.
We're throwing it away all the time.
so,
and I'm like,
Downtown
I wonder if I could
Albuquerque.
use this bottle for something else before I throw it away.
Downtown Albuquerque. There's a couple of
I'm not
recycling
going all
locations.
the way down. That's like an hour drive round trip.
I am seriously thinking about doing it because I'm getting.
They don't do it in Rio Rancho or Bernalillo?
No.
At all.
No.
Not
The
at all.
only place was, and actually, you have to drive down I-25 to San Mateo, off on San Mateo, and there's a recycling place there that includes one of the big containers. Is
Well,
marked
if
for
you're
glass.
going to do it, then we'll save ours. And
Save your
keep them.
glass, and I will do it because
Okay.
I mean, after all, I'm getting.
You
concerned.
want only clear? Do they do only clear there?
I don't remember. I don't think there was a constraint. there didn't seem to be any kind of constraint, so I'll take everything.
All right, we'll find out
Just give it
about
to me and
labels and colors and
Yeah.
all that, and we'll start saving it up.
Yeah, and I will do it. So again, Jono, thank you for referring that. And again, the link to that video is in the description box below this one. So let's go to our imagery. Some of these images Lisa sent us, and I pulled some other images from Google Earth. But let me show you the area that we're talking about first. So this is, I said Maryhill, but is it Mayhill? No, it's Maryhill State Park on the Columbia River.
Beach.
Yeah. On the Columbia River that divides this part, which is Washington State, from Oregon.
Oh.
And Lisa actually collected 2 samples of sand for us, one here at Maryhill State Park, and then she crossed this bridge, I assume, and drove, oops, I can't do it on here. So let me switch over to Google Earth. So she collected the first sample here, and that's the one we're going to talk about today, Maryhill State Park, right on the river.
Lewis and Clark Highway.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? We just covered that last night in our show. And then she
And a
crossed this
winery.
bridge, and she headed
We should check that place out. That sounds interesting.
east, northeast in this direction. And right here, there's another location where, is this it? Maybe not. Wait. Where the river
US Army Corps of Engineers.
enters the Columbia, and that would be the John Day River.
Gherkin Canyon.
And she collected another sample from the John Day River at the point where it enters the Columbia. So we're going to cover that. Not next week. We are going to cover it next week,
Couple
next
of
Friday,
vineyards.
because I've already got one planned
Waving
for next
Tree
Monday.
Tasting Room.
Yeah, there's all kinds of neat things. So there's, if you look at it real closely, let's open it up. It looks like it's all a bunch of wineries and vineyards along that area,
Nice.
and the park is right.
Well,
in
then you know it's got good soil for growing
yeah,
grapes.
exactly. It's right. That's the park. That's Maryhill State Park. Now I have marked that as the location of sample 0006.
I
Right.
see.
So it's a real pretty park,
What did that
and it's
say?
right on the Columbia River. What were you going to say?
Fruit stand and orchard.
Yeah.
Ah.
So
stand.
orchards, and so it's probably that sandy, loamy soil that comes from the river, and the Columbia River, as you probably know, is a massively big river. I mean, it's a huge river. You can tell just by the bridge that goes across there. So that's where this particular sample was collected from, and she wrote us a little letter, and I'm going to read that now. And she actually sent Shelley a gift. Are you wearing your bracelet?
I am.
So Lisa sent Shelley this gift of a bracelet as
You
part
can't
of this
see it 'cause
package.
I'm so tiny.
And
Up in the corner there.
and she says the pretty bag is for Shelley. Hi, Toby. Here are 2 samples of sand as promised. I do have to tell you that we enjoyed the time spent collecting them.
I'm
That's
sure.
nice.
It
I'm glad
sounds
that
like,
you did.
looks like a really nice area.
And then she cites the 2, the Columbia River, Washington side at Maryhill State Park, and that's the one. She gave me the latitude and longitude as I asked, and that's the one we're gonna take a look at today. And then the second one comes from the John Day River at LePage Park, a tributary to the Columbia. The John Day is the second longest river in the U.S. Without a dam. Samples taken just inside the mouth of where it enters into the Columbia. So we're going to take a look at that next Friday. I've got one planned we're going to talk about a different kind of sand. We need to jump back to the East Coast because we've been kind of on the West Coast. So next Wednesday, we've got an East Coast sand that we're going to be looking at. I'm hoping to get some pictures sent of the areas as well to your email. She did that. Love watching AGK. That's our other channel. You and Shelley are a great addition and source to the Chase community. Sincerely, Lisa. So thank you very much for
I thought
the
it
very nice
was
letter.
in Britain, but look, Stonehenge.
Oh, well, that's interesting. I wonder if that's it's a bed and breakfast.
Isn't that interesting? It's like in the middle of a field. What? What's that doing there?
Those look like trees, like an orchard. Stonehenge Drive. So that must be the Stonehenge Orchard.
Oh, I see. It's just the name of the property.
Yeah, yeah.
No big rocks.
So, and that's the Lewis and Clark Highway, which as we know, interests us from our other perspective. All right, let's go back and take a look at the images. And again, I've linked to these images. I'm going to show you You'll find a link to these
the show
images
notes.
in the show notes.
As
yeah,
they say in podcast
in the
city,
in the description box below.
podcast world.
So this is one of the pictures that Lisa shared with us, and this is
Pretty.
looking across the river over to Oregon from
Wow,
Washington
look
into
how she
Oregon.
got the reflection
Yeah,
in
isn't that
the
pretty?
water there.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
And then this one I collected from Google Earth, which is a look almost I could tell from the area. And as you can see,
More of
they
a spring,
seem
summer.
yeah they seem to have blocked this area off for swimmers and waders and people that can do that. There is a sand spit right there, so I'm imagining that she probably collected the sample from this area here. And she can correct us. Again, this is looking across the river. And it's really funny because I always expect Washington to be very pine tree oriented. And this almost, if it wasn't for the water, it would look like New Mexico
Yeah.
with the rock bluffs. And of course, some of that sand you can see in these dark bluffs, since this is part of the continental plate. Some of that sand was probably washed down from rocks on both sides of the river over hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of years, and ended up as sand. And we're going to see some of that in the sample itself. This photo was made by, I can't read that far. What is it?
Dawn Hemrick.
Hemrick, right. So I do want to give them
Lisa
credit.
said, I sent pics of Stonehenge to your Gmail. Stonehenge is a replica in its completeness. It is a memorial to World War I veterans. Cool place.
Oh, I don't remember saying that. So this is another look upstream. Oh no, that would be downstream because that looks like the dam right there, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. But this was a
Victor Gonzalez.
photo made by Victor Gonzalez. This is
Wow.
looking from one of the bluffs past the bridge that we saw earlier, and that's the Maryhill area park right there, and again across the river from Oregon. And so I did this again. Sooner or later, I'm not going to be able to do this anymore because I'm just going to have too many bottles. But at least I know I can fit 6 of them in.
You can
so I can
always
always
do
keep the last 6. Yeah. So just as a reminder, this is the sand that came to us from Connecticut. This from the Rio Grande River. This from Prince Edward Island.
You
With
could
that,
just label them, you could put it in your...
well, they have numbers on the back.
I know, but I meant on the picture.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That's probably a good way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah.
This
Use
one,
your graphic talents.
yeah, all those
Graphic
talent.
artist talents.
This one from San Clemente, this from Corona del Mar. These are both California beaches here. And you can see mostly white, this one a little bit tanner. But you can see the difference between the river sand here. It tends to be a little bit more dark, probably because of those bluffs overlooking the river. And I also noticed that it had, so I put the sand through a screen. And that's sized to it's a 2 millimeter screen because things that are bigger than 2 millimeter are no longer considered sand; they're considered pebbles. So I've got a 2 millimeter screen that I sift the sand through, and I noticed that we were getting some larger. You can see them down here. We were getting some larger sand grains. They're still sand grains because they're under the 2 millimeters, but they did have, and of course they sunk to the bottom as I was pouring it. It poured them first because they were heavier, and because we have gravity.
Lisa says, the east side of Washington is more desert. West side of Cascade Mountains is more wet and rainforesty.
Yeah. I kind of remember it being that way.
It was
So I
kind of
was-
like the Wind River area where one side was brown and one
Yeah,
side was
yeah,
green.
it was really kind of funny because it really was. It was very distinctive. So I was at a project. The Hanford nuclear site is there, and I was out there for several weeks on a project. That was the only time I've ever visited. Well, a lot of time in Seattle, but that was just because it was techie. So this is our sample right here, and as you can see, like I said, it's a little bit darker than the others, and it has some
More like pepper.
heavy, yeah,
Black
almost
pepper.
right, almost some heavier sediments. And I thought it was going to be black, but as I looked at it under the microscope, you'll see that there is some black, but there's a lot of blue that reminds me of lapis. And I wish Rick was here because I'm sure he could validate that. Oops, that's out of order. Why is that out of order? I need to fix that. Also,
You're out of order.
you're don't get her started. So I also noticed we had a little shell fragment right in there, little snail snail shell. That's a view from the bridge looking, I'm going to guess, downriver as I look through the waves. That's a little bit closer. This is a little bit brighter. I'm kind of surprised that I allowed myself to make it this bright because I think it lost some of the saturation in the image. And that's pretty close. And as you're going to see in just a minute, it has a lot of quartz, as usual, because sand quartz is very durable. It has some feldspar. It looks like it has some galena here, and I thought that that was galena. But as I looked at it closer, it was just because it was sitting in a reflection. I use an LED light that's circular around the microscope lens, and it reflects straight down, and I think that was just a shiny side of the quartz, so I can't guarantee that. Also, I did the same thing with this sample that I did with the previous sample, where I took a small magnet and drug it through the sample, and what surprised me was how much more covered. I don't remember. I don't have the other sample on this to compare it. But the other sample, there was a little bit of magnetite or magnetic sand in there. This one literally covered the magnet and to 2 layers. I mean, it was working. You can see these stones here are actually a second layer of magnet, which implies to me there is a lot of magnetic iron-based stone, not iron, but magnetic-based stone in that particular area because it literally just covered that. And this is this. Did I bring it in here? It's basically one of those push pin type whiteboard magnets. It's very small. It's probably less than a 1/4 inch across. So it collected a lot of that from the sand. I was very surprised at how much it collected.
Lisa says, next time I go to the Olympic Mountains, I will grab you a sample. And being so close to the ocean, there are freshwater clams. I would guess the blue could be mussel shell.
Oh, interesting. Well, you're going to have to take a look at it. Lisa, if you want to call, I will open up the phone lines right now, and you are welcome to call in and talk about this area if you'd like. We'd love to hear from you. So, and I did include Lisa's letter as part of the imagery that I saved for this particular list, and it's all there. All the information is there, and the link to this sample is in the description box below. So, I'm going to switch over to the microscope now. But Lisa, if you'd like, please feel free to call and tell us about this area, and you could save yourself all that typing. Tell us
And
what kind of plans.
Is?
The number is area code 202. I don't know. What's the number? There she is. Look at that.
She knows.
I didn't have to do it. Let's see if we can hear you. Hi. Hold on. Lisa?
Hello.
Hi. Can you hear us okay?
Hi. I can hear you.
Oh, good.
Hi. Hi
So-
to you and Shelley both.
Oh,
Hello.
good. I'm going to go back to the photographs and kind of open them up, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about this area.
Might be
Okay.
a little bit delay here.
It's a very minor delay. I have it on the shortest possible delay, so she should be able to see it. So I've got the picture, the first picture that you took up with a tree, and that was taken at the park.
That was right at our campsite, actually.
Oh, how long were you camping for?
We were there about 5 or 6 days, somewhere in there. Yeah.
And I remember you collecting this recently. When did you collect the sample, and why was the weather so mild?
It was in October.
Mm.
Do you remember the date, Curtis?
October.
It was like the first weekend of October.
Mm-hmm.
And
October?
it was, pardon?
October?
October or
That long ago?
November?
It was of October.
Yeah, I kind of remember receiving it that time.
Yeah. And it was a really nice weather for us. We were kind of surprised. A lot of times it's windy through there, and we just had a wonderful, beautiful weekend.
So, just out of
And-
curiosity, how is the boating on the Columbia River?
There's a lot of boating.
Yeah.
At the John Day where I took that sample is actually the Army Corps of Engineer takes care of that. I wanted to go further up the river, but they had it closed off.
Oh, interesting.
But they take care of that, and there's boat launches there, and there's a little bit of everything from salmon to sturgeon that get up to 1,000 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you imagine being eaten by a sturgeon?
No.
1,000 pounds.
My
shrimp.
grandson heard that and he's like, I'm never swimming in that water.
So I've got another photo here that came from Maryhill State Park, and it was made by Marcy Taylor. Are you looking at your computer right now?
I'm not. I'm
Oh,
just
okay.
on my phone. We were out
Oh, okay. All
taking
right.
care of stuff.
No worries. So I was going to walk you through this. So do you feel like this area is well preserved, I guess, for lack of a better way to describe it? Do you feel like there's issues associated with reclamation and pollution and things like
You
that?
know, I think they take pretty well care of that whole area.
Mhm.
And just from the ocean side to where we were, there's like 5 different dams.
Mm-hmm. On the Columbia.
There's on the Columbia, yeah.
Yeah.
And so in between that, I think they have more of a higher water level than what they did before
Mm-hmm.
they dammed it all
Mm-hmm.
up. And then right where I took the sample at Maryhill, it's really pretty rocky. I had to move some rocks out of the way to get down to the sand.
Yeah, I had to sort some of the larger. I had to screen some of the larger rocks that came with the sample out because they're not sand. I mean, they after 2 millimeters they're pebbles. But I could see where you had to kind of that there was no sorting while you were doing it. You were just basically pulling the sand and anything else that came along with it, and that's okay. We can take care of that when we get it.
Yeah, and the rocks in that area were probably between a half an inch up to 2 inches, and a lot of them was just gorgeous. They pretty much, buffed themselves, and a lot of them were shiny and a lot of movement in there.
Yeah. So approximately at this point, how far are you from the Pacific?
I would say about 60 miles.
Oh yeah, right there. There it is, right there.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about them damming up the river is a lot of beach sand, as you've heard me talk about before, ladies and gentlemen, that a lot of the beach sand comes from the mountains, from the continental side, from the continental plate side of all of this, and that's why there's some granite and a lot of quartz. But when they start damming up these rivers, it doesn't get that far. It's backed up. So what they end up having to behind the dams, and what they end up having to do is basically trucking the sand to replenish the sand that would have filled up whatever delta that makes up that river, and the Columbia has that problem. Now, next Friday we're going to talk about the John Day River, which is where you collected another sand sample for us, and I think we're going to see some different because that's one of the long, wide rivers that you said is one of the 2 in the United States that's not been dammed up at all.
Right. There's no dam on the John Day River at all.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to that conversation as well.
Yeah. And also on the John Day, now, I don't know if they actually used any kind of fill in there because there is a campground there, and then there is the boat launch and areas to tie your boats up there. And it's really dark. That sand was pretty darn dark.
Well,
I kind of wanted to go up further up the river, but like I said, they had it closed off, so I couldn't do it then. But
yeah, I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad because I noticed as well while I was processing the sand into samples, I did the same thing. I screened it. I ran it through a screen to reduce it down to sand size, and I noticed the same thing. It's very, very dark, and it looks like it's made all of the same substance, but it's not as magnetic, interestingly, as the sample that came from Maryhill Park. But again, we'll see that next Friday when we take a look at that sample. I didn't want to do them. I really felt like they're so different from one another that I didn't want to do them all in the same day because I didn't feel like it did them justice. But
yeah.
So, well, I wanted to thank you, of course, for taking the time to send us a sample and for sending us the pictures that you sent. We really appreciate it, and we're glad that you did because it's a very different sample than from what we've seen already. So it's only number 6. So we look forward to seeing some more. And as we said, you don't have to be at for those of you that are watching, you don't have to be at an ocean beach. You don't have to be at a lake beach. You can be on a river. I collected my sand sample from the Rio Grande, and Lisa's collected her sample from 2 different rivers in that border the state of Washington. Now, do you live? You live in Washington, right?
Yeah, I do. I
Yeah.
live near Silverdale, which is
Right.
across from Seattle, but on the Olympic Peninsula side.
Right.
We were just down there for a getaway.
Oh, nice. Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you had the opportunity not only to get away, but collect the sand
Yeah,
sample for us. That was very thoughtful.
I said we had a really good time, and it is a nice area if you would like to go there. And there is a lot of wine tasting. And Maryhill State Park above there is a museum, and they have their own vineyard up there.
Oh, nice.
And they actually, that's the same property that Stonehenge is on.
So
And,
you actually said there was a location that is a replica of Stonehenge? Or is that
Yes,
just the name
it's
it
built.
gave?
No, it's built out of stone. It's what the original Stonehenge would have looked like in its completeness.
And is it in Washington? So if I enter Stonehenge, is it a park? Oh, it's a World
It
War
is
II.
by Maryhill State Park,
One.
but
Is
it's
that
the
it?
World War One.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see.
Also,
So-
if you looked up Samuel Hill, he's the one that had that all done. He owned where Maryhill Museum is. He actually was going to be his house, and now it's a museum. He was one of the first people that built the roadway in Washington State and built that area up. But he
So-
had Stonehenge built for World War One memorial.
Oh, yeah. It's about 1.5 miles as the crow flies away from your Maryhill State Park, it looks like.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
darn close.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the same guy that built the Stonehenge built the entry, what's it called, into Canada, the Peace Arch in Canada from the Washington side into Canada.
Wow, actually it's a completely refurbished replica of Stonehenge. Doesn't look this good. I've seen Stonehenge. It doesn't look half as good
Yeah,
as this.
no, that it's what it would have looked like in its completeness.
Right.
What they presume it would have looked like in its completeness. And you
And
can
does
walk through there. And
does it have the same relationship to the spring and fall? Is it solstice or
Equinox?
equinox?
oh yes,
It
yes,
does?
and it
Wow.
has the Hillstone and all that around it.
Wow.
It's a really cool place to go through.
Yeah, it would be a really interesting place to visit. Well, thank you for making us aware of that. It might be worth just a visit up there for that.
Yeah, and if you're there, you might as well drive to the coast because Port Vancouver, where the Hudson Bay Fur Company was housed, and they're there too. And there's a park you can go through, and the stockade and all that good fun stuff.
Yeah.
That's what we did as well. Yeah.
Oh, well, good. Well, it sounds interesting. It sounds like it's worth a visit. I've been there on business. I've never been there for pleasure, but I have been for business. What do you want to do?
Switch to the sample. He wants to see the sample.
Okay. All right. So, Lisa, thank you very much for joining us today and for calling in and telling us about this location. And again, we really appreciate you taking the time to collect the sample for it. We're going to switch over and start taking a look at the sample now.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
you're welcome, and thank you guys very much.
And you have a good day and a good weekend.
You as well.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Shelley.
Bye.
Well, that was fun. Nice area. Who knew? We're not
Yeah.
only learning about the sand. Okay, Rick's here.
We got fruit
He's
orchards
our
and fruit
he's our
stands
official
and
geologist,
wineries and Stonehenge
and he wants to
Memorial.
see the sample.
Yeah.
So this is the sample in a
So
wide
this
angle
isn't
view.
very far from Mount St. Helens, so might some of this be basalt lava rock?
It really depends because I think Mount St. Helens is further.
I saw it on the map when you
Oh,
were
did you?
looking at the map. Yeah.
Let me see. Let me go back. So
Not this map, but the Google Earth.
So let me search it and see what the relationship is. Oh, here I know what we can do. We can get directions from here to.
It was the volcanic monument is what I saw.
Yeah, see, it
And
is.
there's another one. See. Mount Adams.
Mount Adams. So this is further west, so it's closer to the Pacific. And if I remember correctly, when it blew out, well, you can see where the blowout is. Is it possible that it could end up in the Columbia River down here? Yes, it is possible, but it's more likely that it would be lower in this area. And we might see more of the dark
And look,
basaltic
Mount Hood.
sand there. There's another one there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just surrounded by
Yeah.
volcanoes.
Yeah. So, I think it's very possible that I didn't see it in this sample. I saw the more traditional igneous granite, quartz, feldspar.
Show it to Rick.
But okay, we'll show it to Rick and see what.
See what he
So
says.
Rick wants to see it. So, all right, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to turn a little bit away so that I can operate the microscope. And that's a wide-angle view, and as you can see, there are granite stones in there. There's feldspar. There's a lot of quartz as usual, but there seemed to be a lot of this bluish stone. And as we look closer into it, it starts looking a lot like lapis. I mean, it really does. So,
Well, I thought it looked more black than blue.
okay, well, watch when I get closer. So I'm going to zoom in here, and we'll go about halfway zoom. Let's see, that would be right about.
He says a lot of basalt.
Yeah, so the basalt is what's coming from the volcanoes.
Yeah.
But you can see, so there is that,
Composite rock.
yeah, the composites and the bluish, that bluish, a lot of blue. I mean, it was,
I think it's just so black that it looks blue.
I looked at it pretty close. There we go. I'll just bring that in a little bit closer for
He
you.
says plagioclase. Plagioclase?
Plagioclase.
Plagioclase.
So as you can see, it really does look pretty blue. Now, there's as usual,
Oh, a piece of lemon.
we see a lot of quartz because that's the most durable of all the minerals that come out of the granite. There is some feldspar as well. But there's a lot of this blue stuff. Look at that. It's just piles of it. Now
What is
remember,
the green? Is that like a moss that's hanging on, or is that just a?
that's just another mineral. So
From the
these are
color of the-
actually composites. I think did he call them plagioclase? Mm-hmm. So they are basically composites. Let me see if I can move this over. And they're just other minerals. I mean, there could be olivine. It could be minerals that have a green tint to them, but then that looked pretty blue to me. And like I said,
Well, I'm seeing the the edge, like it's a translucent edge that looks green.
no. So
that
some
like
of them are just because of the fact that we've got this zoomed in so far. It's a telescopic effect. So you're actually seeing other pieces. Every once in a while, I'll think that I'm
Okay.
seeing a rock embedded in another rock, and then as I look closer, it turns out to be just a smaller a piece of sand attracted to the larger one. So let's take a look around, see what else we can see. So there looks like some right there. So that's one of those that I feel like I'm not sure if it's one or two pieces. My first reaction is that this is, quartz with some
Smoky.
impurities that make
Smoky
it blue or dark. But I'm kind of worried that what I'm seeing is one stone on top of the other. But again, there's a lot of this, the solid quartz or feldspar down here. But, where the sand that we saw coming from the beaches was dominated by the quartz, this doesn't have any dominant kind of rock in it except the blue stuff. I mean, and just like I said, everything has almost got a bluish tint to it. So there,
Oh yeah. That one's definitely black.
yeah, that one's definitely black. That might be the basalt that
Yeah.
that he was talking about. So what I saw less here than in other of our samples, and I'll zoom out a little bit, was there seemed to be less red.
Yeah.
There is some, but certainly not as much as we saw in some of those samples, especially, of course, the one that came from Prince Edward Island. So let's just move it around a little bit and see what other colors in there. There's a nice
Some greenish.
Some greens. There's a lot of green, not olive green, which is a different. It's more like what I would. There's a version of emerald called Coke bottle emerald, and that's what these remind me of right there in the center. They've got a little Coke bottle color look to them.
Yep.
But again, that's probably just quartz with some impurities that change the color in it. But I thought this one. I saw this one earlier, and this one I want to get closer and I want to take a picture of it. Because I just thought it was
The big one?
Yeah, because it's got a composite feel to it. Like
Yeah.
there's
some
more
different
happening in
colors.
there, and
Yeah, it's red, little bits of red.
so there's like some garnets and stuff like that. So let me get a shot of that. I do want to put that in the collection on Google Photos. Let me see how far I can zoom in here without losing it. See, don't they look like garnets to you? Or am I just wanting to imagine that? So,
The
Rick,
rock is bleeding.
ask-
Somebody squeezed it too hard.
ask Rick to give us a definition of plagioclase. I remember seeing that in my learning, but I can't remember what it meant. Okay, so I need to go down here and to... Oops.
Squeezed.
I just want to make sure I have the right numbers.
M.A. Hammock says plagioclase is a white feldspar. Orthoclase feldspar is salmon pink. The dark
Oh.
blue comes from corundum.
Oh, well, corundum is one of the... So on the Mohs scale, the hardest is diamonds, right? They're Mohs scale 10. That's the hardest mineral that you can find. Below that are the corundums, and the corundums include rubies and sapphires. So maybe what he's telling us is that those corundums have some sapphire basis to them. Wouldn't that be cool? We're looking at little mini sapphires. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And then I'll zoom back out.
Sapphire or ruby?
Well, no,
Or do
they're
you mean
both
the blue?
sapphire, emeralds, sapphires, and rubies are the next hardest on the Mohs scale. They're 9, but they're all corundums, different from diamonds. Diamond is in a class in itself, but emeralds. I wonder if emeralds are included in there. Maybe he can tell us. I know that at a minimum, sapphires and rubies are corundums, the corundum class, and they're the next hardest on the Mohs scale. They're 9s. So I know emeralds. I thought emeralds are corundum as well. That's why emeralds, sapphires, and rubies are the next most valuable. So let's see if we've got any other red stuff in there. Yeah, see, I didn't see a lot of red. Little tiny things like that, but nowhere
kinda right
near.
There, but
Oh, yeah. That one right there. And look at that nice olivine colored, and it's got a bit of translucency to it. Let's take a look at them together, see if we can get both of them in.
where does tanzanite come in?
I don't know on Mohs hardness scale.
Lisa says all three are related. The impurities are the only difference.
Right.
She must be talking about the emeralds.
Emerald, sapphire, and
Rubies.
rubies. Yeah. So they're minerals that are actually gemstones because of their value.
Kind of a brownish reddish color.
Yeah, it does. I'm more interested actually in the greenish colored one because
The bigger yellow.
I'm always looking. There's a yellow one too that we're going to look at in just a minute, but I want to get a shot of this. And I can still zoom in just a little bit more. Let me see. But again, as I zoom in, I'm going to lose some of that
You're not going to get the whole piece.
depth of field. What?
Come and take pictures with your microscope show.
Oh, you're going to kill me. So they're going to demonetize
Of
this.
sand. Oh,
Okay.
I'm singing it.
I know. You're
They
okay.
can't. Maybe we can sue them for using our song.
Okay, so I do want to get that shot. But the other thing that I noticed about this area here was that there was a very nice...
JK Pioneer says, mailing Smoky Mountain Sand tomorrow and another good show. I'll see you all tonight.
Oh, great. Thank you, JK. Make sure you get some pictures for us, please. So a lot of blue. I'll take these. I'll probably make some more photographs and put them in the collection so that you guys can see them. There's a couple of pretty good sized quartz that I had noticed as I was taking a look at the sample. There is that shell, of course. And there is that shiny
Rick
piece.
says the blue may be soda light.
Soda light. Okay. And that was as close to kind of a red one as I saw, you know, while I was reviewing it last night. So zoom in on that a little bit. So this had a very nice, I just
Kind of
liked.
a root beer candy.
Yeah, yeah. Kind of an interesting look. But again, as I look through these things through the microscope, I'm just always surprised at how different each of these are. There are no two grains of sand that are the same in the same way that there are no two snowflakes that are the same. But I'm always amazed at I think I've said this in the past, I'm always kind of not upset, but jealous of the fact that we couldn't take these and turn them into a necklace or something like that. That's how they look, like the same kind of,
You'd have
gemstone.
to have them be bigger.
Yeah,
So
you would
people
have
could
to.
see them. Otherwise, they'd be just like,
Okay,
"Oh,
we got to
what
get
is
ready
that?"
for our next show today. And we want to thank you guys for joining us. And we certainly want to thank Lisa for... I just knocked off my eyepiece.
Oh,
As long as I don't run over it, I'm okay. Let's switch back to full frame. And again, thank you folks for joining us. Remember that our mission is to make everyone aware that sand is a natural resource that is being consumed at rate faster than the planet has the ability to replenish it, and that some grains of sand can take millions of years to produce, the finer ones, of course. But if you would care to join us in this adventure, find the nearest sand producing area, a river, a lake, the ocean. Sometimes, as I said, we're getting a sample next week the week after from the New Jersey Pine Barrens. So there's places where we produce sand. We're going to be looking at fracking sand, Smoky Mountain sand. So please send it to us so that we can have it on the show. And please sign on to the show when join us on the show so we can have a conversation with you, okay? And
thanks for joining us today on the World Sand Project. I'm Shelley Carney.
And I'm Toby Younis. Thanks for joining us today. I want to thank Lisa for sending us a sample, and I want to thank Rick and the other folks Rick for being in the room and helping us with that information. Rick is a geologist by training. And I appreciate the other folks that popped in to help us identify some of these things, because we're just learning a lot about this. I'm trying to pick it up as fast as I can, but if I watch 3 videos one night, I have to rewatch 2 of them the next night just to kind of pick it up again. So again,
Jimmy
any help?
Fast wants to know, have all the sand submissions been suitable to make concrete?
To this point, yes. Because they have the right characteristics to make concrete. And we plan, of course, eventually to collect enough of these to just make a big walkway. No, I'm just teasing.
Build a wall.
Yeah. The least suitable is the finer sands, the sands that come from White Sands, New Mexico, or any other desert, because they're too fine. So what we're looking for is sand that you saw today, which has angles. Concrete likes angles. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday at 3 p.m.
Limbo.